My name is Gabriel Privett, and I represent the Rebels of the Sacred Earth. If you would like to find out more about this organization, you can follow this link. It'll also be in the description. Today, I would like to welcome you to an ongoing series called Throwing Down the Gauntlet. It's a series where I take prominent figures and their quotes in YouTube shorts and respond to them and explain why they're trying to fool us, why they are incorrect, and what their ulterior motive may be. If you enjoy, please leave a like, a subscribe, hit that notification bell, and a comment. It really helps the cause greatly. I came across this short done by, it looks like Riley May Reacts, and it's just a short clip of her reacting to a video in full agreement of what he says, and I'm just appalled by what this person is promoting, because it's insulting to our intelligence. It's not remotely accurate. It's not reality. And we'll go through it and talk about why saying is not true and why her reaction is so disingenuous at worst and just ignorant at best.
I know you're so oppressed, my dears. I know life is so hard for you. You have to live in the richest, most equitable, most just country in the history of...
Okay, so his first claim is that we don't live in oppression. He's being sarcastic when he says, oh, you're oppressed. And that because we have to live in the richest country in the world, the most equitable country in the world. No, what you're saying is a lie. And I believe that you're intelligent enough to know that you're blatantly lying to these college students. All right, let's start with oppression, okay, right? Because in a society of free people, where there's free, innocent men exercising their rights, they have the right to liberty. And what liberty means is that they can act in ways that are to their best interests, as long as they're not causing harm or loss to others. As long as their actions only cause harm and loss to themselves, then they're free to behave as they please. You know, that's what liberty is. Well, we currently live in a society that has legislated laws that compel me into despotism. I can't go out and utilize my fair share of the natural resources to produce a cash crop that I could take to market in order to satisfy my wants and needs. If I were to go out into the wilderness and start producing a large amount of recreational substances, the government would come and try to put me in a cave when all I was doing is exercising my right to liberty, when all I was doing is laboring for myself so that I can satisfy my wants and needs without having my labor exploited in the manner that capitalism is responsible for. Now, that being said, my only option to provide for myself is to allow my labor to be exploited by an employer. I have no choice but to trade my labor to an employer because laws have been legislated that affect my rights. These laws have been legislated without my consent. That is oppression. So let's move on to his next claim, that we're the most equitable country, right? We're the most equitable country. No, we're not equal. If the government is compelling people into obedience, if the government is compelling them into despotism by legislating laws that affect our rights without our consent, we are not equals, okay? Because who's not having their rights affected? The people who have a big enough bank account that they can pay out these lawsuits whenever they get sued in court. Because, you know, suing somebody and getting paid a lawsuit because they violated your fundamental, inalienable, individual human rights, that's not justice. That doesn't equate to justice. That just means that they paid you in order to violate your rights. So we don't live in the most equitable country if the poor homeless man isn't capable of violating human rights because his bank account is so small, when there's other people who are capable of violating human rights because they can just pay. That's not equality. And justice, how can I expect justice to be meted out when a cop violates my rights if all that's going to happen is I get paid out some type of settlement? That's not the justice that I want. I see that it's more to my best interest to hold everyone accountable for their actions equally than to just allow myself to be paid for the violation of my rights. I want future generations to have justice. I want future generations to have freedom and equality and independence and liberty. But the current system that we live under forces us to be dependent on our employer, so that we're incapable of providing ourselves unless we allow this labor exploitation. Nothing about our country is free. Nothing about our country is equitable. There's no justice here. We are oppressed. This man is blatantly lying, and I think it's time that somebody calls him out for it.
The world, you have to get a college education, you have to voluntarily go to lectures. It's so awful. I can't imagine. The people who are in war-torn nations, they must truly pity you. Goodbye then.
All the people that stood up looked exactly what I thought they'd look like. And having a shirt that says the word fat really sells me on your mental stability.
And then Mr. Knowles has the audacity to suggest that these college students voluntarily go to college, that they voluntarily go to these lectures. What's the alternative? To work in Burger King as a burger flipper? Wow, that's some freedom right there. Like, we have an alternative to better our lives. No, Mr. Knowles, if this is the only way for us to better our life, it's not a choice. We can't help ourselves. That's like saying that it's consensual when I hand over my wallet to the dude in the alleyway mugging me, because I can't help myself. I have to give him my wallet. These people can't help themselves. They have to go to college in order to try to get a better life. Perhaps if we had independence, liberty, freedom, and opportunity, then we would be able to help those people in those war-torn nations. Perhaps if we had the type of self-governance our forefathers envisioned when they created this nation, we would be capable of helping those people in those war-torn nations. But the reality is, we can't even help ourselves. And before we can help those people, we have to help ourselves. There's no reason for you to be acting like those people are in any worse of a situation than we are. Our chains are just invisible. See, the difference is our war is invisible. We are at war, Mr. Knowles. It's just an invisible war of the mind against people like you who are trying to convince the proletariat that there's nothing wrong with the current system when it clearly does not have our best interests at heart, when it is clearly reducing us into despotism without our consent. No, Mr. Knowles, we are just as war-torn as they are. The only difference is we are fighting a war of the mind. We are fighting a war of propaganda. We are fighting an invisible war. Their war is just more visible. That's the only difference. And as for you, like, what does it even mean when you say, like, oh, all of those people looked exactly like I thought they would? Like, what does that even mean? As if somebody's appearance reduces the merit of their words? Like, what is your point? Like, oh my gosh, these people are a little overweight. These people are obese. So what? Does that make their grievances any less valuable? Does that make their words any less important? I think not. I don't think we should be judging people by their appearance. Clearly, all she's doing is using Michael Knowles for clout, and like that's her ulterior agenda. Is she doesn't really care about any of this nonsense. She's just doing this for clout. I would be so surprised if she was actually capable of holding a constructive conversation that challenged my beliefs. I would be just so refreshed by that. Well, I truly hope you enjoyed this video that's presented to you by the Rebels of the Sacred Earth. If you like this series, it's called Throwing Down the Gauntlet. I encourage you to leave a like, a comment, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It really helps the cause greatly. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future.